Welcome back, everyone. We're here today with Thom Tillis. And one of the questions I wanted to ask you, Tom, people are not familiar with the 98th District, the geographics. What areas do you actually cover, with little towns, areas? Can you tell us a little bit about that?
The 98th District, by law, every district has the same number of people when you redistrict. But with redistricting almost 10 years behind us, I have one of the more heavily populated districts now. And we'll be redistricting next year. But for now, my district extends all the way down from south of the Overlook on the west side of town, all along the Catawba River, all the way to Highland Creek. It includes the entire town of Davidson and Cornelius and the vast majority of Huntersville and the northern portions of Charlotte. So Harris Boulevard and 115 and parts.
Well, that's quite a large area.
Yeah, it is a very large. It's the largest geographic district in Mecklenburg County, and we have 10 House members and 5 senators in Mecklenburg County. It's the largest county delegation in the state.
Wow. And now, how often do they actually redistrict?
About every 10 years.
Is that right? So
we'll be
kind
doing
of coincides
that.
with the census? Is that what they do?
That's
Obviously,
right. We finish the census, and then we go through the redistricting process.
What about Mecklenburg County in general? We have Catawba Avenue as a local project, and we're going to have Augusta Lee. Any other projects in your district?
Yeah, there are. Well, there's a number of projects that are meaningful. People, they're interesting because you don't know much about them until all of a sudden they start. But there will be spot safety projects. We already saw one along 115 at McCord Road. You'll see one at Rama Church where they'll be doing a major intersection improvement. That really does help the flow of some of these corridors. You'll see some of those. You'll see that at Washam Potts in 115. We're working already to try and get phase 2 of West Catawba project, beginning the process of getting funding so that we can get from Jeton Road down to Westmoreland. Down in Huntersville, we are working. We met with Secretary Conti from Transportation and made it very clear we do not want them to take the eye off the ball of that segment between exit 20 or between Highway 21 and Highway 115 on Sam Fur Road. That's going to move forward. It's going to create some disruption while the work's going on, but I think it's going to produce a great movement there that we really need. Going a little bit further south, I've continued to beat the drum on 485. The governor this week said that it turns out, even though there was a promise during the campaign time to try and accelerate that project, that there's no money. That was obvious to anybody who was really looking at it. But we do have some opportunities for actually getting that started sooner, and that's really my primary goal in terms of a major corridor, probably equal only to the 77 work that we're trying to accomplish with Augusta Lee.
At 485 extension, that just seems so silly. I mean, here you have a belt and you just don't have any buckle to just close it up. It
That's
just doesn't
right.
make any
It's
sense.
Like some of my older belts I can't wrap around me anymore.
Yeah.
You just can't use them.
I've got quite a collection of those, yeah.
But that's a 5.5 mile segment. And I've tried to get people to think more in terms of ways to get the process going. We don't need to be swinging for the long ball, because if we think that we're somehow going to get $230 million to do the interchange improvements at 85 and another $110 million, so 110 for the 5.5 mile segment, another 110 for the interchange. I don't think it's going to happen a la prima. But what we can do is go ahead and get money and start acquiring the remaining right-of-way. That burns down a lot of time. In fact, it's some of the most time-consuming part of building a road. So let's get the money and let's go ahead and buy down that right-of-way that we need. It's also the right thing to do for the property owners. They've been in limbo, some of them for 20 years now, and we need to get that off the table and make clear where the road's going to go. But you can also build this in segments. You could go from 115 to Mallard Creek for about $50 million. And that would provide a lot more movement. It would provide a lot more movement it would take a lot of pressure off of Harris Boulevard, given that parallel corridor. So we need to think practically that way. It's really the way that we accelerated getting the last segment open. That road would have probably not opened until about right now had we not sat down, and it's something I played a direct role in, to get the department to work with the contractor to figure out how to punch out the road, get all the safety related things done, and then the remainder of the punch list do while that road's open. Some of that practical thinking has to get inserted into the process. The other thing we have to do, and it's more likely to occur after we come out of the downturn, is to provide local governments more authority to go to the taxpayers, go to the citizens, and come up with other creative ways for sources of funding to improve some of these roads. There's a program called Pennies for Progress down in South Carolina. It's a local option tax that can only be used subject to a vote of the people, can only be used for a specific project, and when that project's done, it's sunsetted and subject to voter approval for future projects. That sort of approach is the way that we'll also address some of the growth and congestion problems we have in the faster growing areas.
Well, I think something has to be done to finish that, because it's just so much benefit to everyone in the whole area, and I think it's going to lead to more development, because as you build roads, people do come. That's one thing. That's about the only reason why people come, not because of a shopping center necessarily, but for roads. You'll always find it, because that 45, I use that often, at least once or twice a week, and it's really a great road.
It is, and most people don't realize, but the segment that has yet to be complete was originally prioritized to be the first segment to be built.
Is that right?
Yeah. And literally within months of getting the funding locked down, some of the leaders in Charlotte said, well, we may want to hold off on that segment because we're going to change some of the zoning and planning laws up there, and so it kind of rotated, and now it went from first to...
At least they did